Over the years on this channel, I have made it very clear that Final Fantasy VII is simply my favourite thing ever. Like, I love this beautiful piece of media more than anything else. Final Fantasy VII is my ride or die. If no one else got me, I know Final Fantasy VII got me. Can I get an amen? And I'm not just talking about the game here. I love the OG Final Fantasy VII. It's definitely one of my favourite games of all time. But my love for Final Fantasy VII lies in the full pantheon of Final Fantasy VII titles. This is special, but this is magnificent. I will lap up absolutely anything related to the Compendium of Final Fantasy VII. The main one, the movie one, the one that makes me cry, the forgotten one, we don't talk about this one, the paper one, the new one, and the one that's just copying the other best game of all time. I am Mr. Final Fantasy, and I am more qualified than literally anyone else on the planet to tell you what makes Final Fantasy VII so goddamn special. And yes, I am literally qualified. Look at my certificate I got from university. And with the release of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth right around the corner, I thought that there's never been a better time to put my 100% real degree to use. I am an academic. I think the only place to start when discussing the complete compendium of Final Fantasy VII is with the 1997 original. And I know this is stating the bloody obvious, but this game is damn good. It's the best of the series and the best Final Fantasy full stop. I don't know how a game from 1997 starring this thing has stood the test of time so well. For those who don't know, Final Fantasy VII was absolutely groundbreaking upon its release. Games were not particularly renowned for their storytelling at the time, in terms of plot quality, as well as the method of telling the stories themselves. But after this hot blonde bombshell hit the scene, Final Fantasy VII had an iconic story to tell, and boy did it know how to tell it. A huge selling point for this game was the inclusion of the full motion video CGI cutscenes. Animated cutscenes were not the norm for video games at the time, so this was a ginormous step in terms of cinematic storytelling. But all of these advances in storytelling would be for naught if the game was simply not fun. And they stuck that landing! I could spend hours on the gameplay of the original Final Fantasy VII, but that's not what we're here to talk about today, so let's quickly gloss over. Every RPG in 1997 was turn-based. That is the way it was. And Final Fantasy VII is still turn-based? Ish? With a twist. Final Fantasy VII runs on a time system. If you play optimally, it is turn-based, but if you hesitate and take too long on your turn, you'll be punished, as the enemy will take 2 turns within your 1. The system isn't overbearing, and definitely doesn't completely change the way this game is played compared to other turn-based RPGs, but it adds that extra layer of tension and trepidation, making these fights feel much faster paced than any other JRPG that was available at the time. And the materia system, oh god, the materia system is the perfect way of allowing you to progress your characters as well as make your own custom builds for them. It's amazing! Is it clear that I like this game a lot? So, not only did this game revolutionize the way video game stories are told, and was also a blast to play while it did it, it also brought Final Fantasy to the West. Previous games were released in this part of the world, but this is the one that really sold it for most people. And after that, the series just sort of snowballed. Final Fantasy would be nothing like it was today if it wasn't for the adventures of a spiky boy and his pals. Speaking of these guys, let's talk about them. Goddamn, this is the best cast of all time. The original Final Fantasy VII was a smash hit, but in my opinion, these characters are what elevated it from a top game to a cultural phenomenon. RPGs tend to lend themselves favourably to ensemble casts, and Final Fantasy VII just has the best of the best. There's so much variety here, something for everyone. We have varied races, ages, body shapes, personalities, fighting styles, motivations. Everything here is so diverse. But they all fit together and make a perfect picture when the parties as a group. It's just the most perfectly designed party of all time. You want to be a ninja girl? Go right ahead. Want to be a big man with a gun for an arm? You sure can. Grumpy old man? You can do it. Twice! And one of them is an emo! And Cloud himself, the star of the show, an excellent protagonist. Many conventions were broken, including the obvious you-know-what, but Cloud not being a typical Chosen One protagonist, which was very much standard for that era, is a masterstroke. Nothing is more relatable than your playable character being an absolute failure who's gotten himself in far too deep. Oh nah, he just like me for real. If I had to give any reason as to why FF7 is my favourite thing, then I would say it's these characters. Cloud is my favourite character of all time. Zack is the GOAT. Stab me if you know what I mean. The thing is, everything we've spoken about so far is a contributing factor to what makes the original game so special. But what blows my mind about Final Fantasy VII is the way they took a 10 out of 10 game and somehow expanded it into something even greater. Crisis Core and Advent Children are a prequel and sequel to the original game respectively. Crisis Core tells the origin story of Cloud's idol Zack and how that ties into the origin of Cloud, whereas Advent is a movie continuation to the original game, which follows how Cloud is coping mentally after defeating Sephiroth. Spoilers, he isn't. These two projects have no right being as good as they are. Advent Children's prowess as a movie is questionable, but if you view this more as one big cutscene rather than a movie, it deserves its place among these other two masterpieces. And yeah, you heard it, Crisis Core is a masterpiece too, just as much as the original game. I know so many people who prefer Crisis Core to the original Final Fantasy VII. My girlfriend included. I wanted her to be in this video, but unfortunately she's so excited for Rebirth that she cannot sit down to record this. Maybe next time. But Crisis Core, what a game. If Cloud subverts the trope of being the chosen one by being a failure instead, Zack subverts it by just being the GOAT and pretty much being the main character without actually being the main character of Final Fantasy VII. This is Zack's game and he is the core of it, and that's why it's so loved amongst the community. Zack is the most popular character for a reason, you know. And boy oh boy, this game ends with the biggest emotional gut punch I have ever witnessed in a story. Sometimes I think about the ending of this game and just cry. It happens a lot, I'm not okay. 9 times out of 10, when a masterwork gets a spin-off or a sequel, it is doomed to fail from the start. But how did 7 pull off 2 worthy expansions to its lore within 2 years of each other? To me at least, the answer to this question lies within the world of Final Fantasy VII. The planet Gaia is a rich and vast world made to be explored by a player. It's why the open nature of the original game works so wonderfully, and both of these projects fit within the world so perfectly. There is room to expand the world, but not so much that we, the audience, lose track. This is a world designed to be part of a video game first and foremost, which is why I guess Advent Children feels more like a long cutscene rather than a movie. There is even a Final Fantasy VII Battle Royale, which obviously I don't like the concept of, but it's like, not offensive to the story or the brand. The writing is so tight in this series that even a Battle Royale doesn't make me feel any less towards it. Fortnite. They made their own Fortnite, motherfucker, and somehow I don't resent it. Let Sephiroth hit the chug jug. That is gonna age like milk. Cloud and Sephiroth in Fortnite is only a matter of time away. I haven't even touched Final Fantasy VII Remake yet, This game could get a whole video all to itself. This game had balls. Materia balls. Tweaking and expanding beloved characters for a new generation, translating the classic time-based gameplay to an ARPG format, and changing the story of the game it is remaking without dropping a single beat. This game holds a dear place for me. It's so hard to rank Remake amongst other games. Yes, it has its small flaws, but for me, this is the best possible way that a Final Fantasy VII Remake could have gone. Not only does it adapt its source material faithfully, but it somehow manages to get me invested in what's going to happen for a story I already know so well. A world with limitless potential, amazing characters, an iconic story made from the ground up for video games. There are so many things that make Final Fantasy VII timeless and special. I like to document my journey with video games, whether that be streaming or writing videos while I play them. And while I still might make a small video sharing my thoughts on Rebirth, it's not something I'm actively going to think about while playing the game. No making notes, no streaming, no recording. My relationship with Final Fantasy VII is too sacred to do that. You only get to have the first time once, and I love this damn series too much to even think about anything else than soaking it all in for the first time. Is that pretentious? Absolutely. Do I care? No. I've never been more excited for a game in my life than I am for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and if you're excited as well, leave a like please, because this is a big moment for all of us, isn't it? Comment down below if you've played the game, because this is coming out right before the game drops. If you've played it, comment down below, tell me what you think. I definitely will have played it by then, and subscribe to the channel to see all the videos in the future. And with all that done, I can't think of any more reasons why Final Fantasy VII is special. Oh, Sephiroth is hot.